It's the Awake Space Astrology Podcast. I'm Lori Rivers with you, here to help you with some inspiration to get those aspirations out into the world. Do I sound a little froggy? That's because I taught 3 workshops this weekend and did a reading. I had to reschedule. I don't reschedule often, but I had not been well in February. And I screwed up my own schedule. So if I sound a little tired, it's because I am. And yet I'm fully energized. These were great workshops, guys. I did the Pluto workshop where I gave a really kind of a deep understanding of what the planet means, a little bit of its history, and then what I believe is going to come with Pluto and Aquarius. Now, I've talked a lot about that on the podcast. This was a little more specific, deep dive for the people in the program. I haven't decided if I'm going to put that replay up or not, because it's very specific for the March through June run of Pluto, but I might. You'll have to just keep looking at my link. We'll see how I feel after I get some sleep. I want to talk to you guys about karma in this episode. We're going to talk about Saturn and Pisces because it ingresses tomorrow, March 7th. And there's a lot of TikToks out there about it. And I could go on a diatribe about it. I could shake my fist and rail at the wind, or I could just explain what Saturn is in a Western tropical tradition and encourage you not to appropriate from other cultures. That'd be great. Because, not one of the TikToks I've seen where people were really harping on about the karma and trying to talk about Saturn returns when they didn't know what they were talking about in the least. Not one of them was a Vedic astrologer. Not one of them hailed from the subcontinent. Not one of them had a cultural perspective on karma in any kind of way other than white women's spirituality. And even a few white dudes doing it. God. People, we have our own metaphysical traditions that are really wonderful and wild, but I'm afraid you have to study them to know what they are. And people are too busy appropriating from other people. This has been something that's gotten stuck in my craw since the 90s. Cultural appropriation is not a new concept. So all those people trying to say, oh, that's woke, that's something new. No, these people were just idiots doing kegers back in the 90s, okay? Maybe doing some spliff. I don't know. But let me tell you, as I lean forward here in my passion, we knew about this stuff in the 90s. Woke is not a new concept. It's called being aware. It's being awake. Okay, and the concept is older than the 90s. I was introduced to it as a child in the 70s. It's been around a while. So don't let these malcontents, these right-wingers, make you feel shy about it. I got wokeastrology.com for a reason. It filters people the hell out. And if you don't like what I'm saying, if you feel that wokeness is a problem, you're listening to the Awake Space Astrology Podcast. What do you think you're going to find here? So I'm in a mood because the moon is in Virgo. It's not full yet. That doesn't happen until the 7th at 4:30 a.m. Pacific, 7:30 a.m. Eastern. Okay. And we're going to get real woke on this podcast. Because I can feel it. What can I feel? I can feel Saturn getting ready to ingress into Pisces. And Pluto is so close to Aquarius. And if you think I'm fired up now, you just wait till that puppy ingresses, because it's going to be trining my Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in Libra. And you ain't never seen a social justice warrior go off until that transit. Get ready. Have I offended? I hope not. I hope my listeners are loving every word I'm saying, because that's the people. I'm talking to, because we need to be emboldened. We need to be emblazoned. We need to blow through the blocks of self-recrimination. We need to stand up for what is right. We cannot allow our country to dip further, much further, into fascism. It is liberty for all, and I hope you're here for it on the Awake Space Astrology Podcast. All right, let's talk a little bit about what this full moon is doing on a metaphysical level, on a spiritual level. It is an opportunity for each one of us, to really blow through the blocks that are holding us back from moving forward. Okay, the self-recrimination, the over-criticism, the self-sabotage. Virgo rules habits. It rules refinement. It isn't just about rending apart with criticism. Okay. It is the energy of the editor. The editor isn't there to rip apart a work. It's there to refine it and make it better. And you do not make anything better, including yourself, by putting yourself down. Okay? Point blank. You don't. You want to put your attention on your strengths, on what you're good at, on what is going right. You want to take account, which is also a Virgo thing, accounting. So if you only look at the deficit, what's missing, you are never going to see what's adding up. Okay? You're going to not see what's there to build with. So this is the time to break through the blocks. All right, my friends? And you're going to say, but Lori, I have this habit. Well, break it. This is the energy to break it. And it's great energy to break it. Not only is it a huge full moon to release these blockages, okay? And you're not going to get them all, of course not. But you can get some big ones with this. That moon is in a trine with Uranus. Okay, so Uranus or Uranus is in Taurus. Okay, it's stubborn as fuck. But Uranus blows through stuff. So you've got the moon in Virgo trining Uranus. This is going to shake, rattle, and roll you at a core level. And you could be afraid of that, or you can embrace the hell out of it. And we need you to embrace it right now. Okay? This is not the time to stay stuck. And if you want your butt propelled into a future that is more pleasing, more secure, safer for not just you, but everybody else around you, then by golly, harness this. How? Stop telling yourself the bullshit stories. Stop repeating what your third grade teacher told you in your head. Okay? I knew this young person, they were in their mid-20s, and because a second grade teacher told them to write stories about another subject they weren't interested in, they had decided they were a bad writer. And when they came to me for advice and they told me, this was what was going on, I was like, how old are you? Are you still 7? Okay, if you wanted counseling techniques, go to a therapist. I am not the person for that. I mean, you are a grown-ass person. You are no longer 7 years old. That was an incompetent piece of teaching, okay? Why have you given your love of something over to a person who was not good at communicating in a way you could receive that information? And the teacher might have just been trying to get them to spread their wings, but they decided they were a bad writer because of what that teacher said. They were like, hey, honey, I know you keep writing about cats, but can you write about something else? And from that, they decided they were not good at it. Okay, we do that to ourselves, our perceptions. Okay, switch your perception, you switch your reality. And March 7th, everybody's reality is going to switch because Saturn is changing into Pisces. It's just moving on ingressing away. This is not the time to hold on to your limiting beliefs. Let them fly out the window with several fucks. Okay? You'd be like, wow, Lori, you're up on it today. I am because I'm frustrated. Do you see where the world is at? Do you see where there are people who want to control and oppress us, and you are doing their own damn job for them if you're doing this to you? Why? Why? Stop it. Stop it. You can change your mindset. I know, I've done it. I used to think mean thoughts at myself all the time. I used to put myself down. I didn't need anybody else to criticize me. I was the best criticizer of myself. Okay? My internal critic was on, had to have been on speed, okay? But I managed to turn it around. I managed to work on it. Was it easy? Not necessarily, but it wasn't that hard either. Okay, and you do this by taking account of the little things that are going right, because especially with this full moon in Virgo, the little things are going to be magnified. They're going to be magnified. Okay, so I want us all to be paying attention. Okay, to the little things that are going right. Oh, I got up when my alarm went off. I got up before my alarm went off. I got all the paperwork done. I took care of things that I'd been putting off. Yay me, I finally got it done. Okay. My hair looked okay today. Okay. Give me little things. I remembered to eat. I drank enough water. I took my supplements. I took my vitamins. I was safe in traffic. I drove well. Don't think about the assholes around you who are cutting you off. You stayed safe. You drove defensively. Do you see the difference? Because if the drama around, oh, I don't want to be seen. I don't want people to know me. I don't want to know. Then stop complaining if you're invisible. Okay. How do you want to be known? We don't always get to be in charge of that, but how do you want to be known? You know, and I'm not as cranky as you think. It's just, God, if more people could lean in to the better part of themselves, can you imagine the world we would live in? Because most of these people who are doing hateful things, mean things, cruel things, you can see the self-loathing in them. You look at their pinched faces and their furrowed brows and the meanness and the fear that resides in them, you know. And even the ones that seem cocky, you know, they obviously are insecure. And if we could just be more secure in ourselves. And that's what Uranus and Taurus is saying. Hey, shake things up a little bit and find a new kind of security. Liberate yourself from the things that make you feel unsafe, unsecure. Liberate yourself. You know, it's important, guys. It's important. By the way, if the background noise is bugging you, that's my heater, and it's really freaking cold in Southern California, so deal with it. All right. So that's the full moon. It's going to give us a chance to blow the blocks. And we need people finding their courage. We need people to soothe their nerves. We need people to find security within, self-acceptance within, to appreciate that which can be shaped and refined to be in its best capacity, not debilitated by anxiety and doubt and worry. Okay, there's a big difference between self-oppression and actual clinical anxiety. Okay, so if you have clinical anxiety, this is not that. Go to therapy, get what you need to take care of that. But a lot of the time, the worry, the overthinking, all of that, it isn't a true anxiety. It's circumstantial or habitual. Okay, there's a difference. And I want you to understand that. And I'm not a psychologist. I just did a lot to get to 0 clinical markers. But a therapist will tell you the same damn thing. Okay. A good one anyway. So here we are. We're right before that full moon. Stuff might be up. It's okay to cry for the release. How else can you release it? Well, you can physically do this activity and do it all month. Do it all of March. Okay? Practice it for a whole month. Get a journal, whether you like to take notes in your phone or put it in physical paper, write it down. Every day, write down 10 good things. Good things about yourself, good things about how the day went. They can be really little. I woke up. I'm breathing. Okay? Because some days we're not in a mood, right? But you start with 10 good things about yourself, about the day. It could be about your cat, your dog, your kid, the sunshine outside, the rain, whatever it is that you feel is good. Don't try to pretend. Don't fake it till you make it. It's got to be authentic. That's why I gave you the, hey, I woke up. That's legit, okay? Do that. And then instead of writing your problems in your journal, write about those 10 things. Give yourself a story to anchor. Okay? It will shift your perceptions, and your perceptions shape reality. And that's important to remember because we got Saturn moving into Pisces. Okay? And Virgo and Pisces deal with reality in different ways. You have Virgo, which is realism, the physical world, taste it, touch it. It's about life and death. It's the healer. Nobody ever talks about Virgo as the healer anymore. Virgo is the healer. Okay. All right. So Virgo's the healer. And Virgo deals with the reality of what is. She does the triage, right? Then we've got Pisces. And Pisces energy is illusion and delusion. It's addiction, it's faith, it's connection to the all that is. We can be addicted in so many ways. And there are people addicted to fear. There are people addicted to drugs, addicted to other substances, addicted to video games, addicted to social media, addicted. You hear it all the time. And it's seeking a connection. And that's the other side of Pisces, which is faith. It's the connection to the all that is. It is the mystical side of things. It's being tuned in to spirit, tuned in to the ether, tuned into the quantum, okay? Because some of us don't believe in God. I don't believe in a God. I don't believe that somebody's directing traffic. I don't believe there's a sky daddy or an earth daddy. Did I used to? Absolutely. I was raised that way. And then I hedged my bets and explored other belief systems. And after being exposed to quantum mechanics theory in college, and I was still hedging my bets for maybe 10, 15 years. And I decided, screw it. I'll find out when I die. I'm going to just say, you know what? Life and existence is. Now, you don't have to believe the same way as me, and I respect your right to believe the way you do. That's why I use so many different words. I want to speak in as many, in as many languages as possible for you to tune in a way that works for you. I'm not here to tell you what to believe. You got to know what you believe. Okay. Not a fan of dogma, And with Saturn moving into Pisces, we're going to see changes in the churches. We're going to see a chance to, more formalize our beliefs, to rework our beliefs. Funny enough, the last time Saturn was in Pisces, it was the mid-90s. And at the end of that transit, in 95, is when I found astrology. Saturn was on my north node in Pisces. Yeah. How's them apples? I had no intention of being an astrologer. In fact, I told the guy who became my teacher, well, fine, I'll study it, but I'll debunk it. I came in with skepticism. That's why when you people ask me, like, well, how do you talk to people about astrology that don't believe in it? I'm like, I don't. If they challenge me, I'll refute their challenges. I'm not going to let somebody, run all over it in ignorance and try to pretend they're right when they don't know anything about it. But I'm not going to try to convince somebody to pay attention to it either. I'm not here to evangelize astrology. I'm here to talk to the people who already want to know about it. Okay. I'm not a big fan of any kind of evangelism. I'm not going to try to get people on board. Astrology isn't a belief system. It's a process. It's a field of study. But we'll see some changes with that. This will be a great time to ground your spirituality, to find practices that work for you, that make ritual for yourself, to hone your intuitive and psychic abilities, to come to grips and to be real about it. Find grounded, blended spirituality. Anchor your faith in something. Instead of handing your agency over to other people, find your own spiritual authority. I'm here for that, man. I'm here for that. That's what I love helping people do. I don't need, again, to believe the same way as you. I can respect where you're at, but just give you some processes to do some self-discovery so that you know without a shadow of a doubt what is true for you. Man, that rocks my world. My truth and your truth can both exist at the same time. They don't cancel each other out because we're all expressing creation to one another. And that sometimes the messiness of it is exactly what humanity needs. And speaking of messy, it is going to get messy. But we need you standing up. I saw a great TikTok tonight. I watched a clip of the Rachel Maddow show, and there's this legislator in Nebraska who was literally holding up the entire legislative session because she is willing to filibuster every single bill to get that anti-trans legislation off the table, to keep it away from a vote. That's brave. She is willing to filibuster every single vote. And it was great when she spoke up. She said, because I got to hear her speak on this video, she said, is this a threat? Yeah, it is. Because our kids deserve better than that. And, that was brave. And we need more people who are willing to be one person and do the right thing, because we're sliding, guys. I want you to hammer your representatives and your senators, your county council people, your school boards, because if not you, then who? And we're moving into that energy because we've got Saturn sliding into Pisces right after that big old Virgo full moon. Things are gonna get weird. And on the 23rd, of course, we have Pluto moving into Aquarius. And you can listen to episodes 8, 9, and 10 to find out my whole mundane predictions for March, okay? I know they're long. You can do the dishes. I do the dishes with people a lot. Did you know that? I do. I do the dishes. I help fold laundry. I keep people company on their commutes. And some of you listen to me to fall asleep. I'm sorry about this episode. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry. I will start a new podcast that's separate from this one where I read bedtime stories. Okay. All right. I'm going to take a break. We'll get to the patron shout outs, and then I will talk about karma. Okay, because I want to leave you guys with an understanding of karma in terms of Western metaphysical belief, okay? Because we need to stop appropriating. It's not a new concept, okay? Cultural appropriation is not something that's brand new, okay? Gen Z did not invent the idea. It's been around for quite a long time. And people have been aware of it. So all those people who claim ignorance say, well, I didn't ever hear of it. Well, you were in a bunker, okay? It's existed for a long time. We have known that it is not okay to appropriate someone else's culture just because we like that culture better than the one we've got, and we haven't chosen to research what's available to us in our culture, okay? All right, so we'll talk about that in the last segment. So I'm going to take a break. We're going to do patron shout outs. And then we'll talk about Saturn in Pisces and karma, and why we don't want to appropriate the term, but how we can actually use Saturn in Pisces to great benefit, regardless of where it's transiting our own natal charts. It's my favorite part of the podcast. That's right. It's patron shout-outs. If you're new and you're listening, I have a Patreon called The Awake Space, and you can find the link to that in the description for the podcast episode. Patrons, you guys support me in ways that is just life-affirming. Thank you so much. Talk about support, kindness, affirmation, and such dedication to making your corner of the world a better place. And it is an honor to be of service to you. It is an honor to be supported by you. Do not think I take you for granted or that I take you lightly, because, my friends, I do not. It's amazing. So let's get to our newest patrons. Oh, wow. So many of you. And I just read the newest ones, guys, because there's over 750 of you, which, my God, isn't that crazy? Just wild. We've got Emma, Shrigley, Kia, I think, or Kija, Jordan, Lisa, Paula, Ella, Bethel, Marta, Judith, Ryan, Sue, Sarah, Brianne, Chantel, Stephen, Serena, Christina, Emily, Bethany, Melissa, Wendy, Hannah, Huron, Neptune, Madeline, Kat, Natalie, Pearl S, Mariah, Sarah or Sarah, Rhonda, Kim, Jessica, Jana Maria, Bean, Mimi, Natalie, and Monica. Big thank yous to you. You guys are absolutely freaking amazing. The Discord is always popping. If you haven't participated, feel free. Don't feel like, oh man, there's just these few people who participate, I won't be welcomed. You will be so welcomed. So welcomed. All right, we've got the venting chamber if you've had a bad day. We've got the celebration chamber to celebrate the good stuff. We've got lots of astrology threads. The current events threads is always hopping. The news articles, we don't communicate in the news, like the headlines, right? We just post articles that kind of back up the mundane predictions, and other ones, because, I don't get every single thing that happens in the world. Just quite a few. Some days I scare myself. So big thank you. I accidentally sent out the Leo moon horoscopes to everybody, but that just, once in a while I do that. Sometimes I accidentally forget to click the toggle buttons, and all the tiers get the horoscopes, and I always just take it as, you know what? Oops. Oops. It shows people what they get, the horoscope levels, so if they decide to bump up, they do. But in general, it's like, well, maybe somebody needed that. So it doesn't happen often, but it happens once in a while, especially if I'm tired. Remember, I am one person running that Patreon. The mods can't help in there. I might, once I get to 1,000 patrons, I will get a team account. That's my goal. Once I get to 1,000 patrons, we'll do the team account, and then I could get some admin help in there. But for right now, it's me, myself, and I. So thank you for all your patience, your support, and your kindness. And I'll answer a couple questions at the end of the podcast from the patrons. Alrighty, on to talking about karma. All right, we're talking about karma. All right, let's set the record straight. So in Western esoteric tradition, we do not use the term karma per se. It is appropriated all over the place, especially since, mid-20th century. Okay, maybe even earlier than that. I think that started coming in the 19th century when the British were still very actively colonizing India and the surrounding areas, of course, with the Great British Empire. And I say that with sarcasm. And so to sound more interesting, they and in this weird pseudo blend of Christianity and Eastern philosophy, they appropriated terms and concepts from Eastern philosophies and religions. Now, does that mean Eastern religions and philosophies, when I'm talking about it, aren't valid? Oh, they're extremely valid, and there's a lot to learn from there. However, karma is not a term for those of us born in Western European cultures to appropriate, okay? And when we talk about white women's spirituality, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the New Age BS out there that oversimplifies a very, very complex, philosophy, concept. So Buddhism also has, which Buddhism was also born in India, by the way, the concept of karma. And it's okay to study these things. But again, in Western metaphysical tradition, especially if we're progressing narratives, using a half-truth or a half-baked part of a very complex concept that comes from cultures that are not ours isn't okay. It's theft. It's theft. And when I see larger creators, and when I'm saying larger, I mean larger than me, out there doing their little, I can help you understand your path, and how to release your karma. They're lying. They're lying. They're spreading misinformation, and they are thieves of a concept. And they'll say, oh no, I'm not. I just believe in this. And they kind of hide behind it's their belief or their past lives. Newsflash, we've all lived many past lives, and we've been in lots of different cultures, but we are in this life now. And we are here to experience this life and the culture from which we come and the roots of the biological DNA that we have. And you might have mixed roots. And if you have mixed roots, go at it. I have a very mixed family. Okay. We have people we are related to all over the world, lots of different cultures. But none of my physical present lifetime, okay, DNA comes from that part of the world. And so back in the 90s, even before I found astrology, and actually we'll go back to the 80s when I was really more into the metaphysics and the energy side of things, trying to make sense of why I could do weird stuff and see weird things and just some of the more intuitive and psychic stuff that was going on. And I started studying it. Yeah, Eastern philosophy and what I could find of it had more verifiable answers for me than a lot of the Western traditions that I could find. And some Western metaphysical traditions were developed in concert with cultural exchanges. And it wasn't always appropriation. It was, different philosophers would get together, and this is back in the day, like the Renaissance, the Middle Ages. It wasn't always theft, and it wasn't always colonialism. There were times where there was not, where people would get together and they were just philosophers and they'd talk about stuff and they would share ideas and carry things on. That's why there are blended concepts when you study in history. in the history of the metaphysics. Some of it was appropriation, and sorting and sifting that out is important. So when we talk about Saturn and hearing a Western tropical astrologer say it's the Lord of Karma, that pisses me off to no end. A Vedic astrologer very much has every right to say that, although I think if you're blonde and your name is Beth and you're from Scranton, New Jersey, you probably should be looking in another direction for your studies, okay? Because Vedic astrology is its own complex field of study, and it hails from India, and it is not a Western tradition, okay? I purposely chose not to study Vedic astrology in depth. I learned enough to be aware of it, to be respectful of it. I have friends who are amazing Vedic practitioners, okay? Very accurate. It has a very different philosophy from the one I hold and I use. I have abject respect for it. So never think I'm putting down Vedic astrology as a modality at all. I don't think there's a reason to, okay? I just don't think people from a Western European background have a right to abscond with it and then get clout with it, And I've seen a lot of TikToks over the last 3-4 days as we move towards that Saturn ingress into Pisces, with people claiming to be, transformation coaches who can help you elevate above your karma and pay it off or redeem yourself. And oh my God, is that unethical? It's so bogus. And they're preying on people who often have suffered trauma, abuse, and are still thinking they must have done something wrong because bad things happened to them. And that's an extension of the Calvinist philosophy that is so embedded in American culture, so embedded, that only those blessed by God have good things happen, and only the blighted, sinful have bad things happen. And that's why we blame the impoverished. And there's so many reasons for it. And I'm not blaming the people who think they did something wrong. I have compassion for that. I've been there. When I was first investigating, past life stuff, because I'd had experiences and memories and very strange metaphysical experiences as a teenager in the mid-'80s, and then again in my very late teens into my early 20s, and weird stuff kept happening. So I was investigating, and I had some weird lifetimes pop up for me, and I thought, oh wow, I was aggressive. That's why these things had happened. I'm paying off all of this stuff because I was really bad, well, because I held the belief, and even though I knew the trauma I had suffered as a child was nothing I had brought upon myself in this lifetime. Like, I didn't deserve it. I didn't ask for it. I wasn't a bad kid. I was a good kid. It was from the very sick and twisted minds of the people who hurt me. I was somewhat clear about that. But then why did it happen? And then why did it try to continue to happen through other people? Why did the essay attempts come at me in college? And why were those things happening? I must have done something right. Well, no, that wasn't anything to do with it. And because I was focused there, though, those were the easiest memories to have pop up, being a warlord or a fighter or a mean priest or a mean priestess or because my perceptions, were such. Now, my earliest past life memories were of me being present at like events, public events, or witnessing things happening. It was like being a witness to things. And then I got the baddie memories. And it wasn't until I started really healing and loving myself, and trust me, it took a long, long time, that the healer memories came up, the defender memories came up. You know, we experience life as human beings. Our souls express in all ways. You know, it's the universe honestly doesn't care. We care. We're here to experience, and we experience the good and the bad, and we are the good and we are the bad. And you didn't deserve anything that happened to you. You know, so these people are taking advantage. These people are exploiting other people's pain. They're triggering trauma. They're reinforcing trauma. And I think we need to look at things a little bit differently when it comes to Saturn, because it isn't that you deserved a damn thing. Okay, so first of all, sometimes shit happens in life. Sometimes we have accidents. Could we have used better judgment before we had an accident? Well, maybe. Sometimes not at all. Sometimes somebody else's bad decisions, and we become part of their consequences. Do we deserve it? No. And then sometimes we make shitty decisions, and there's shitty consequences. That's the fuck around and find out part of life, right? I always say wisdom is what we gain from surviving our stupid decisions, okay? So there's that. Then we go to looking at Saturn from a different perspective. Okay, so this idea that Saturn's all about restriction and karma and, you know, paying debts and being flogged and treated like shit. Our perceptions do more to put us in positions of struggle and suffering than actually events do, even if we're experiencing trauma. And I know that for a fact, given my own experience with trauma. Ignorance is bliss, and man, ain't that a true statement sometimes. Our perceptions can help us move forward, stay stagnant, remain in suffering, or help elevate us. And that's the one thing in our control is our perceptions. It really is. And they are not instantly transformed. There is no magic bullet. It takes discipline and drive to do it. You really have to want to do it, and you need to be equipped to do it. It's not just about making a decision. It's about finding the right tools and techniques. You can get those through really good therapists, reading better literature. That's one of the things I love about Jen, one of my natal astrologers, is she always has really great references to recommend to clients from her own studies in psychology and her own practices. Casey as well, Rita, Mackenzie, they all have great resources. We all try to provide our clients with a better understanding of their value and their intrinsic divinity. You know, you have an intrinsic divinity, and we think of divine in such a, you know, if you think of, if just the concept, the whole universe is interconnected at a quantum level, and we are all divine slices and of creation. The spark of creation is within us. We have the same particles as the sun and the planets and the galaxies. You know, the Big Bang resides within each of us, right? We're co-creating this reality, good, bad, indifferent. And so when we look at Saturn, we can take that discipline and change our trajectory and take agency there. Saturn can represent our inner authority as much as handing our power over to an outer authority. And that's a lot of what a Saturn return is about accepting the fact we do have agency. We are responsible for our decisions, and everybody takes that in a negative way, but it can be a very positive experience as well. Life isn't meant to be slick and easy. Life is not meant to be torturous and hard. There could be a middle ground there. So in Western tropical astrology, when I'm talking about Saturn, I look at it as consequence, discipline as in teaching. The word discipline actually means to teach. It does not mean to punish. You teach no one anything by punishing them, other than to act out of fear. Okay. But discipline can just be having a good routine, being able to study, finding the tools, finding the help that helps you to do that, getting the structures and systems in place you need to meet your ambitions. And ambition isn't a dirty word either. Ambition can very much be, I can ambitiously serve. I want to help as many people as I can. I want to reach as many people as I can to show them they are a divine spark of creation. They are a slice of time and space crystallized into physical form, and they are spiritual beings having a very human experience, and every single one of you is valuable. I am ambitiously trying to reach as many people with that message as I can. See, that's a great ambition. Ambition isn't always, I got to undercut somebody or step on people to get ahead. That is not what I'm talking about, okay? It's okay to want a better life. It's okay to want to be comfortable. There's no punishment for that. You're not going to fly too close to the sun. That's not going to happen. So with the thing that we can do with Saturn moving into Pisces is hone our own spiritual foundation. Saturn represents foundations. Pisces is spirituality. It's ground our dreams into a reality. It's tune to our higher self. It's a great time to build a meditation practice. Don't do it too much. You don't need to meditate all day, okay? The goal is not to live life in an altered state of consciousness. Rather, it's to bring consciousness into the body and maximize the human experience. 15 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day is plenty of meditation. 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at night before you go to bed to help yourself sleep. That's fine. There's different kinds of meditation. You can do active meditation. Everybody's Mercury functions a little different, and I write about that in the Instinct and Intuition Guide. It's the Astro Guide Volume 1, Issue 2, where I talk about the difference between Mercury and the Moon, the difference between instinct and intuition. Meditation is a great way to train the mind, but you don't have to try to get to a blank mind if you have a busy mind. Finding something to hold your focus. That could be, you could be doing the dishes, sweeping the floor, spinning yarn, crocheting, yoga. Those are all different things. And yes, yoga comes from India as well. Be mindful of how you use it. Okay. So there is that. Western yoga is a little bit different. It's not quite the same thing. But it is appropriated from India. Doesn't mean you shouldn't do any of these things, but be mindful about it. And certainly don't try to, I swear people get off on exploiting other people's insecurities and fears. And 1993 to 1995 was a really interesting time period to be alive. I was in my 20s then. And my spiritual journey really grounded at that point. The foundations, even though I'd studied as a kid, and even though I had looked into a lot of comparative religions ahead of that, I was always kind of on a spiritual track. I have North Node in Pisces, and I have Neptune in the first house, trine my Sun and Mercury, so, that's going to be there. But I really started getting very clear that my spirituality was something that was very personal and something that I needed to cultivate and develop. That I had looked for answers in so many places. And that really the answers were within. The connection was within. And I studied lots of different philosophies. And that was when I started kind of letting go of the idea of karma as a punishment. And I started studying a little bit more of it because that's what was available. And then when I got deeper into Western esotericism, I realized, I don't need to apply that. I can look at life differently. I can see things as a series of decisions. Whether I made those decisions or I decided how I was going to interpret an event because of somebody else's decision that impacted me. I learned to quiet my mind a little bit more. I had a very, very busy mind. A great book. Shaki Gawain wrote a book called Creative Visualization. And there's some really good tools for creative visualization, which isn't the same as meditation. It's a kind of like, think of it as a branch of it. It's focused thought. That was a book written in the 70s. It holds true today. I recommend it to a lot of people. Ms. Gawain died in, I think 2018. But anyway, I got a chance to thank her and get a response. Because that book I found when I was about 18, and I swear to God, it saved my life. It really did. I was a young kid, long ways away from home in another country. I'd gone to England to go to school. And I pulled what's called a geographical. I thought if I left and I went far enough away, everything would be okay in my naivete and my youth. And of course, when you travel, you take your bags with you. And there was a lot of baggage. There had been a lot of trauma, and I wasn't able to deal with it. And her exercises in that book really kind of helped me make containers in my mind to either hold stuff for later or to safely detonate some real mental ticking time bombs, or to process things while I sought good resources, psychological resources. There weren't many back in the 80s and 90s. I had like one good counselor in the mid-90s, and then in 98, late 98, when I came back to the States, I had a wonderful, very spiritually attuned and trauma-informed counselor who had a quote on his website that said, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. And I loved that because I was tired of suffering. But I understood that there was pain in life. You couldn't get around it. It was going to be there. But man, I was done with suffering. And getting to him, and when he asked me what I wanted, I didn't even know. And he's like, what do you want to get out of this? And eventually I just sobbed. I said, I just want to be loved. I just want to be loved. I want to know what that is, because I don't know. And it had really dawned on me at that point that I really didn't know not only what it was to be loved, but how to love myself. And that was my Saturn return. And I wanted to know that because it had been a very smoke and mirrors kind of thing growing up. And once I studied more and I gained more understanding into my 30s, I realized that nobody really knows. Nobody's really been taught what love is. It's acceptance. It's something we learn about as we grow and we gain understanding. And it has been under the guidance of Saturn that I gained the discipline and the awareness, the mentors, the teachers, all represented by Saturn. Those mentors are Saturn. And they gave me the safe structures to build the tools and build the internal infrastructure and foundation to be accepting and loving of myself. And that is an ongoing process, by the way. It's never done. It's like self-actualization. We are never self-actualized. It is a continual process. Because you're not done until you're done. There's no final enlightenment. That doesn't happen in the physical body, okay? We are constantly turning the light on. There is constantly new light bulbs to change and put in. So don't fall for the dire warnings and the white women's spirituality that's out there. And you don't need to tag me in their videos either. Please don't. Because I just block them. Just don't give them what they want. They're on their own journey, and who knows? Maybe people will get a benefit out of what they're doing. But if you're listening here, that concept is dangerous, and it makes people blame themselves. And I've never met anybody who worked with people like that who ever got out of their karmic loop. They just kept finding more reasons to oppress themselves. And we're moving into a time where we can really liberate ourselves energetically with Pluto in Aquarius. And I would love us to all grab a better playbook than that. So that's what I've got to say. I'm going to answer a couple questions from the patrons, and then we'll wind up the podcast. All right, I'm going to answer a couple of questions from patrons, and these are all astrology questions. Just a reminder that if you're looking for professional astrology readings, you can go to wokeastrology.com, click on astrology readings, and you'll see natal readings available by my natal astrologers. These are people I have personally trained and continue to mentor. They're absolutely phenomenal. We've got Mackenzie, Casey, Jen, and Rita. They are all remarkable astrologers, very, very good at what they do. They are not chopped liver. I want you to book with them. There's also readings by myself. Our calendars book up. You want to take advantage of that. If you're on my mailing list, then on my website as well, I do send out discounts there. They're not as juicy as what I give on Patreon. But I send out discounts there because a lot of the people on that mailing list are clients and former clients. So I like people to be able to take advantage of the discounts that we offer. Alrighty, this question is from Moon over Miami Valley. I love that. So when you say I have Mercury in my 8th house or Saturn is conjunct Neptune in my 6th house, are you talking about current positions or a natal chart? That's a really good question. So when I say I have Mercury in my 6th house, okay, let's say that's my natal placement. That's, if you say I have, that is a natal placement. So that's why you'll see me be confused on TikTok Lives, because people often don't understand the difference. So if you have a planet in a house, that is your natal placement. Otherwise, you want to say something like transiting Mercury is in my 6th house. Okay, so it's transiting through, it's moving on, right? So if you say I have Mercury, that's a fixed statement. Or Saturn is conjunct Neptune in my 6th house. So that's a trick question. I would ask, is that your natal Saturn conjunct your natal Neptune? Or is, now, if they say I have Saturn in Pisces and it's conjunct Neptune, or Neptune is conjunct, or they might even say it's conjunct Neptune in Pisces, I know Like right now, Saturn isn't in Pisces yet, so that would be their natal Saturn is being transited by Neptune in Pisces, but that's because I know what planet's transiting what. But if you want to say it correctly, you could say transit Saturn is conjunct natal Neptune in my 6th house. That is the nomenclature. So when we annotate this in a conversation, in writing, we might say, like on a message board, we might say N Mercury in 6th house, okay? Or N Saturn is conjunct T Neptune, and technically it should be T Neptune, transit Neptune is conjunct N Saturn, because the transiting planet is making the aspect. So I hope that answered your question. I may have to make a little video for patrons on that one. That was a really, really good question. Let's do another one. Let's look for another question. Getting them education in. I love teaching. I do. I love it so much. So let's see. I'm just choosing rando here. So let's see. Oh, wow. This is quite the question. This is from Dulcie. If the hypothetical planet 9 were to be discovered, what effect would it have on astrology? Is it a celestial body, but we haven't known about it for very long? Would it even change anything? Well, I've kind of talked about this in the Pluto workshop on March 4th. Like prior to the discovery of Pluto would have been in our super subconscious, and it wouldn't have had as big an effect on humans because we wouldn't be aware of it. And I explained the observer effect. I talked about that, I think, in episode 9 as well, at the bottom part of the episode. So we would have to actually sit and observe this planet 9. So one of my beefs with Chiron is the astrologers of the 70s and 80s and 90s and so forth kind of ran with the Greek name and, the the Greco-Roman mythos and didn't bother to sit and frickin' observe it. Now, I distanced myself from the professional community way back in like the early 2000s because I was so annoyed with the make it fit approach. It just, people were, like with all of the asteroids, they were named Juno or Ceres or, Lilith or whatever, and we're just going to apply these myths to it willy-nilly. And you can't do that. That's make it fit. You have to sit and observe. So we would have to sit and observe and truly record observation because of the observation effect. And we'd have to understand our observation bias. And I think observation bias is one of my biggest beefs with some of the professional community and the not professional, but the amateur community, because it's just like, oh, well, we're going to run with this myth because it must be there. But they don't really apply if you don't sit and observe. You're missing out on the actual correlations and the data collection. So like, I'm really excited about Pluto moving into Aquarius because we'll be the first astrologers to chronicle that energy being expressed by Pluto. And that means we have to kind of step back from what we expect to happen and just take a neutral observer space and record what we can observe with it energetically in our clients' lives. Because a lot of times, like for me, I'm a researching astrologer. So as much as I love my astrological practice and reading charts, I do take note of what's happening over a bunch of different people's lives. Like, where are the similarities? Where are the differences? What are the subtleties in the expression? What is like blatantly obvious? And just recording that data for posterity. So yeah, so we don't know. We don't know. I mean, unless we find out, we've got to sit down and record the data. Good astrology is a lot like good data analysis. That was a really great question, Dulcie. Thank you for asking it. I love questions. I'm going to keep this short, so we're just going to do the 2 questions. I want to remind you that you can book your readings or workshops. I'll have some new workshops coming up. I am thinking about a professional mentorship program that's a little different than what I've got for my apprentices, the ones that I've taught a lot of my trade secrets to. Not all, but a lot. They're gaining the rest over time. Partly there's a bunch. So you want to get good at it so you can absorb it all. And they are amazing. I can't wait to get them into transit readings because they're already getting really super close. So they might be observing a reading if you come in. If you're not comfortable with that, they duck out, but I do like to have them observe my consultation readings, my timings, that, astro energies is the transit readings, career life path is a more consultative reading. I also work with small, micro business owners. If you have a small or medium business, then I do the business coaching and astrology with that. Looking at revenue streams and marketing timing and product launch timing and staffing and all that fun stuff. But you can book with us at wokeastrology.com, and the links are in the podcast description. So have faith, deep breaths, and enjoy the surrealness that is March. I'm Lori Rivers. I'll talk to you in episode 12 of the Awake Space Astrology Podcast. Thanks for listening.